Aloha everyone. So I just want to share a quick weather update from Maui as Hurricane LALA approaches. As I record this, it's about 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. Hurricane LALA is hitting the Big Island as we speak, and there's other parts of Maui that are being impacted. But here in Wailea, we're not seeing a whole lot of anything other than some pretty heavy cloud cover. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the drone up in the air and we'll give you a drone tour of the area just so you can see exactly what the conditions look like right now. We'll talk a little bit about hurricanes and the history of hurricanes here in Hawaii, and I'll share what I'm hearing from other parts of the state and the island as well. Okay, just to give you your bearings, we're facing south right now, looking in the direction of McKenna, but we're going to spin and start following the Wailea coastline heading north. As I already mentioned in the intro, Wailea has been mostly protected from the storm so far. You can see that we've had some pretty heavy cloud cover, but there are still patches of blue sky. There's been some sprinkles, but no heavy rain so far in this area, and sporadic winds. The winds will pick up for a little bit and then they'll die down. Of course, conditions are still good enough right now for me to get the drone up in the air. If it was raining or if it was very windy, we wouldn't be flying a drone right now. That being said, Maui has several microclimates, and different parts of the island are impacted differently by storms. I've talked to a few friends that are in upcountry Maui and on the North Shore, and they say that they are receiving pretty heavy rain and strong winds as we speak. As far as where the hurricane is right now, it was just recently upgraded to a Category 1 hurricane from a tropical storm. The last I heard, the winds were around 75 miles per hour. Hurricanes are classified by their wind strength, and a Category 1 starts at 74 miles per hour, so we're just barely in hurricane status. And as I record this, the storm itself is centered roughly 65 miles southeast of South Point on the Big Island. So it's not guaranteed that there will be a direct hit, but it's definitely going to be coming close to the Hawaiian island chain, definitely close to the Big Island, and we'll see how close it gets to Maui. Now, it's always better safe than sorry, so it's good that people prepare for the worst, but let's talk about how rare it actually is for Hawaii to get hit directly by a hurricane. And when you break it down island by island, it gets even more rare. For example, the Big Island itself has not taken a confirmed direct hurricane landfall since 1871. And Maui's history of direct hits of hurricanes is pretty thin too. In fact, it was that same storm in 1871 that hit the Big Island was the last time we had a direct landfall of a hurricane on Maui. However, the island of Kauai has had a few direct hits in its history since that 1871 storm. Hurricane Dot hit Kauai directly in 1959. Hurricane Iwa hit Kauai and Oahu in 1982. And then in 1992, Hurricane Iniki made a direct hit on Kauai as a Category 4 storm. And that's still the strongest hurricane to ever strike the state. And as a Category 4, Iniki was very destructive, with over 14,000 homes damaged. But again, that was all the way back in 1992, and we have not had any direct landfalls of a hurricane since then in the state of Hawaii. Now, here's something that I really want to stress, though, is that you don't need a direct hit from a storm to cause significant damage to any of these islands. And the perfect example of that is from the Lahaina fire in 2023. On August 8th, 2023, Hurricane Dora was a powerful Category 4 hurricane, but it passed several hundred miles south of Hawaii and nowhere close to a direct hit. But the pressure gradient that it created with a high pressure system to the north drove damaging winds across the island of Maui, some over 60 to even 80 miles an hour in spots. Of course, I was there the day of the fire in Lahaina, and I can attest to the fact that there was incredibly strong winds. It was probably the windiest day that I've ever seen at any point living in Hawaii. and it certainly was a major factor in what fueled that devastating fire. So I just did a full 360-degree spin, so you can see the weather conditions in all directions from Wailea. Again, I am recording this on Saturday afternoon. It's August 15th, and the storm is still currently closer to the Big Island, and it will be approaching Maui later this evening and into tomorrow morning. So I do expect the weather conditions to deteriorate even more from here. And one thing that I do want to make very clear is that, of course, I'm not a weatherman. I can only report what I'm seeing for myself from the area that I'm in right now. Like I said, other parts of Maui are being impacted right now. But typically, the resort areas on Maui, like Wailea, Kihei, and even up on the west side like Ka'anapali and Kapalua, are some of the more protected areas when it comes to impacts from hurricanes. And the reason for that is that hurricanes are usually coming from the east heading west, and before they even reach Maui, they tend to get broken up or redirected by the Big Island. And if they do reach Maui and the impacts reach Maui, a lot of times the impacts are going to be felt more on the North Shore and the west side, where you're going to see more rain, and the higher elevations will also see more wind. With that in mind, I have been getting a lot of people who have been reaching out to me to ask if I think they should be canceling their upcoming vacation. And honestly, I'm not qualified to answer that question, but what I will say is that typically with these storms, the impacts are just a few days. So even if the resort areas do receive some significant rain and wind, the worst will probably be behind us by the end of the weekend. Sometimes we do get some lingering rain after these storms pass through, and it is really up to each individual to decide what kind of tolerance they have for some clouds and rain on their vacation. I personally think that Maui is still a great place to visit, even if it's not perfectly sunny weather. There's still so much to do here. But if you are flying into or out of the Hawaiian Islands over the next few days, do make sure to check with your airline to see if your flight has been canceled. And even if your flight has not been canceled and you still want to make changes to your travel plans, check to see if you have any travel insurance and what the policy allows. In previous videos, I talked about the cancel for any reason travel insurance that does allow you to make changes to your travel plans, even if it's just because you don't like what the weather forecast looks like. Again, the trick is to make sure it's a cancel for any reason travel insurance policy. In the description below, I'll share a link to a travel insurance website that I trust where you can find that type of coverage. If you appreciate the timely weather updates from Maui, make sure to hit the like button for me and go ahead and subscribe to the channel for future updates as the weather evolves. Stay safe out there, everyone, and I'll see you on the next video.